The experiment. This one was the agency's mistake. This is what happens when you overwork your researchers and don't give them enough time off from dealing with all the horrors that really live in the world. It's also meant a revision in cool-down policies that were previously only meant for our field agents. From now on, to prevent a recurrence of an experiment incident, researchers are required to take proper breaks from their usual tasks. The researcher in question, whose name has been omitted from the official record and who shall be referred to as X, had been going for about 48 hours straight when dealing with the aftermath of a creature attack. The creature was one of the more commonly encountered malicious entities, a basic human eater that had a quirk that made it dangerous to engage one-on-one. In this case, the creature was a mind reader who could edit small details in the minds of people around it. It basically used its ability to become invisible to other people, but it was more animal than human, meaning that it acted on instinct rather than intelligence. A human intellect would have made it exponentially more dangerous. The field agents, while initially threatened by its invisibility, realised that while, yes, they couldn't see the creature, it wasn't becoming invisible in the literal sense. So, using echolocation, thermals and a shotgun, the agents were able to gun it down before it could attack them. A spray at close range was enough to pretty much divide the creature in two, ending its life and cancelling the invisibility effect. All in all, with the creature dead and less than 5 victims, this was considered a good day. So the agents called in for pickup and the corpse of the creature was delivered to X's lab. Unfortunately, X was already hands deep in the guts of the results of a different creature attack, being tasked with analysing several of the organs that produced a hallucinogen that reportedly caused victims to taste the colour purple. X also had 4 other autopsies to complete and file in the agency's archives. The job was an important one because, without a thorough analysis of the creature's abilities being added to the archive, agents who needed that information in the field would be left hanging, making their missions that much more dangerous. If our researchers weren't routinely overworked from the busy season, and if they didn't have to deal with so much blood, guts and nightmarish inhuman creatures, X probably wouldn't have done what he did. He received the invisibility creature's corpse and a request from the agents to expedite the analysis and data upload. This wasn't necessarily the agents' fault, since they knew there were more creatures in the area and they needed a way to block the mind reading so their hunts could proceed with more safety. They had no way of knowing that it was the straw that shattered the camel's back. See, Researcher X needed something, be it more time or assistance or even just a vacation. But as it was, he only had 2 hands and they were currently buried in the guts of an abomination. But one thing did stick out in his mind. The creature that was just delivered was a mind reader. Necessity being the mother of all invention, he had an idea. What if he could record his thoughts to the archives without having to enter them manually? He could work during the autopsies and record the data in real time. It would save so much time and energy, and maybe he could actually go home on time for once. Hell, maybe he could even sleep in his bed instead of a spare autopsy closet. X was also a high enough ranking researcher that he could request certain equipment and have it delivered ASAP. For a person who was severely sleep deprived and tasting the colour purple, X was able to work out the details for the device he had in mind lightning fast. Suspend the corpse in a preserving solution. Take the intact skull of the mind reader. Peel back the flesh of the cranium, saw open the skull and expose the brain. Attach electrodes to an EEG machine that records inbound brainwave patterns. Set up a device to transmit his own thoughts to another EEG machine. Next, install a unique module that will transmit the brainwaves from one machine to another wirelessly. Round it all out by connecting the whole thing to a computer that will record the incoming thoughts and act as an interface. Finally, run a current through the creature's spine to reactivate inactive neurons. It really shouldn't have worked. It should have done nothing, or maybe at worst blown something up. There was something about the nature of the creature, or about the expensive components X was able to use for his interfaces. Maybe the sleep-deprived genius just knocked it out of the park. But X was able to make a device that could wirelessly transmit his thoughts to a PC, using a creature that could read and edit thoughts as the medium to do so. What was worse is that it did work, and X was so sleep-deprived that he didn't bother telling anybody about his invention. After all, he was behind schedule and he needed to finish the rest of his assignments. He was also closing in on hour 50 without sleep. So, shoving the whole creature interface into an empty chassis that looked like a PC, X went back to work and blitzed through the rest of the autopsies. He was happy to see that all his thoughts were actually being recorded into the reports he needed to submit. Even better was that while the device was initially a little buggy, as he got used to the interface, the speed and accuracy improved. It was working better and better as he was operating at the speed of thought. Soon, he got through all his assignments and was actually able to go to sleep after so long without rest. So while he unplugged himself from the interface, he didn't actually turn it off before heading home for the night. So excited was he to actually sleep in his bed for once, leaving a creature that could read and edit minds plugged into a computer with access to all the agency's information and the internet. All it took was a power surge in the device's faulty wiring for the creature to reanimate. The preserving solution kept it aware and in pain. Pain from the trauma of being shot to pieces and stabbed with various instruments. The mind reader was a creature of instinct. Never having needed to develop intelligence to hunt, its ability was enough to capture prey. With nothing to distract it from the pain but the computer, the creature, dying slowly and horribly, did everything it could to numb itself from the agony. So it learned to use the computer, and it learned to read. Note, the mind reader was instinctual, not stupid. It picked up language and, at the speed of thought, it picked up information, and it started reading. Then it stumbled onto the agency's archives, of creatures like it and what they could do, of how best to kill them. Reading all of this and realizing that it was also dead and soon for the autopsy table, for the first time the creature felt an emotion more complex than hunger and not hunger. It learned malice, spite. Over the course of the night, while researcher X was sleeping on his California king-size bed with a memory foam mattress and 10,000 thread count sheets, the mind reader was uploading all the files of the archive to the internet, and to the private emails of conspiracy theorists, to Reddit forums, and even to social media. After that, it deleted the archive and all backup copies, taking special care to render the information unrecoverable. Its final action was to terminate itself, learning a new emotion as it died for the second time. Satisfaction. The only reason the agency wasn't fully exposed is because the creature was restricted to X's researcher access. The archive he worked with was the researcher's archive, with no access to agent names, hierarchy, or even site locations. But as it was, over 1,000 files leaked to the internet, and because the archive was deleted, we lost the current iteration of information collected and learned on these creatures. It is now an all-hands-on-deck situation, recovering the leaked files, silencing as many people as can be silenced, and keeping the files that are general info hazards from harming too many people.